Hey guys, and welcome to the second episode of Brent Ewing's Hey Buddy podcast. Been a little while since I talked with you guys. I apologize for that, and I'm glad that you guys came back for the second episode. Spent some time traveling back cross country and have been here in Ohio working for about 2 months now, and actually getting ready to head back out to Hawaii. But I'll talk about my cross country journey hopefully within the next few weeks, and let you know how things went there and some cool stuff that I got to see along the way. But on today's episode, I'm going to talk with my good friend AJ Browning. And with June being Pride Month, I thought, what better time to get AJ on? AJ's been a friend of mine for 30 years. What better time to get them on and let them talk a little bit about their story and give you a little, maybe give you a better idea and a better feel for what it means to go through the challenges that folks who are perceived by societal norms to be quote-unquote different. AJ gave a great interview, and I can't wait for you guys to hear it, so I'm going to hop right into it, and I hope you guys enjoy. Okay, there we go. We're good. I got the. So I'm gonna be recording this just to let you know, obviously.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go ahead and turn that on. I still can't see you. Can you see me?
I can. Well, I don't have a camera set up.
Okay, perfect. That's fine. Yeah, and that's fine. I was gonna make sure because I'm gonna be kind of in and out of the screen anyway because I'm recording over at Mama's right now and it's 90 degrees in here. So
Yeah,
I'm probably
my office is like toasty, so yeah.
Pretty warm. I should have came over earlier. I tried to come over here and do it because it's obviously she passed away. I don't know if you knew that or not, but
yeah.
she passed away a few years ago. So anytime I'm doing this or need some quiet, I kind of come over here and hang with her a little bit. But so what's going on?
Same thing, different day. That's about it.
All right. How was today?
Good. Went to the book loft. You ever been to the book loft?
I've not. Is that up like
It's up in
on High Street?
yeah, like German Village. Like
Okay.
2 streets over. It's like 36 rooms of books, and
Okay.
I mean any kind of book you want is there. And
Yeah.
it's pretty nuts. We went there. Had a doctor's appointment earlier. Went to that, and those are always fun. Getting old
Okay.
and stuff.
How's things there, man? I didn't ask obviously the other day with what was going on because it's none of my business. But everything good as far as medically?
We're getting there. Got
Okay.
got a couple more surgeries gotta get this summer, but a lot of it has to do with just being out of shape and not taking care
Uh,
of myself. So now I got to face up to that. But yeah, it's getting good. It's getting good.
okay. Good. Good. I was hoping everything would go well with you. Yeah, I watched the video that you sent me the other night, man, and that dang, that I never that was pretty that tugged at my heart a little bit. I was really shocked at a lot of that because I didn't know a lot of what had transpired. I obviously knew about the split and things like that, but yeah, I was pretty shocked. It kind of choked me up a little bit to see that, and I hate that you had to go through something like that.
Yeah, like the thing is, like, no one really knew. Like, I told a therapist when I was 16, and then I didn't tell anybody else. And then oddly, I was hanging out in Athens with some people I met in the support group, and a student was there getting their master's. She's like, "Oh, hey, I work for the New York Times, and I'm trying to find someone to do this little piece on. So do you want to do it?" I was like, "Yeah, sure. Why not?" And then she ran with it, and I think it ended up pretty good. It kind of gave a full narrative of what's going on, but yeah, a lot
Yeah,
of people read that and watched it. They're like, "Man, I had no idea. Like, you went through all that." And I was like, "Yeah, that's kind of the point. I didn't really want to say it, but
sure.
but I mean, yeah, I mean, it
So as far as us talking again, if I ask you anything, if there's things you don't want to touch on, feel free to say. I'd rather not get into that. But as long as you're cool with stuff, I mean, we'll kind of we'll touch on whatever you want to touch on. I kind of would like to whatever you want to get out there or whatever. I'd like to learn. I'd like to learn a little bit and again, we're pretty good friends for 30 years, and a lot of this stuff I didn't know about, and I'm sorry that I didn't. I wish I would have kind of. I feel like I reached out, but I think you would agree that I would reach out, but sometimes you would pull back a little bit. Like you said, you didn't want to say necessarily get things out there at that point. So that's totally understandable. But like I said, anything I ask, or if I say something, and obviously I say the word man a lot, and I don't mean that as like, again, we talked about that the other night.
Yeah.
So that's just kind of a, you know what I mean? It's a not a tick, but a kind of a type of thing. I say that to women, men, kids, adults. That's just kind of like a dude or you know what I mean? I call
I'm real bad with the dude. Like
yeah,
I just now call everybody dude, and I've got flack from it. I've been in certain spaces, and I'm like dude, and they're like, no, you can't say dude. I'm not saying dude is in dude. I'm saying dude is kind of like a filler thing. Like people they'll talk and go
see,
you know, and it's kind of like
exactly.
that. But like everybody still learns. You know,
Hmm.
you this ain't something like you're I don't want to say you're not born into it, but you're not born into it. You got to get in these spaces and learn how to interact, and you know, it's a constant learning process.
Sure.
So I don't take any offense. If people say dude or man or no, especially people who've known me for 30 some years.
Right.
You know, mom still calls me Shane. Nothing I can do about that. She's
Right.
mom. She gets to call me Shane. You know,
Right.
everybody else in the world knows me as AJ pretty much.
Sure. And
So
that's what when we talked the other night, I wanted to be like, I wanted to touch with you and make sure I was like, man, I hope I'm not, offensive or anything. Because when I would see you out and about, I would still say Shane because it wasn't that I was like, oh, I know you by Shane, so I'm calling you by Shane type of macho thing. I just wasn't sure, because we really, other than texting this past week, we really hadn't talked a whole lot in really a few years, 5 or 6 years since I've really seen you out and about, or sometimes I get with you on computer help back. But dude, that's been
yeah, it's been
eight, nine,
years.
10 years ago.
Yeah.
So I'm glad we're finally catching up a little bit, and I'm glad you decided to do this with me. I think it's a fun thing to I get to talk to friends that I haven't talked to in a while, and just to kind of shoot the breeze and get it on audio recording and see what you know. Hey, maybe somebody will listen and somebody will take something out of it. Maybe not, but maybe so.
Either way, we're putting it out there, and that's what's important.
Exactly. So, obviously with it being June, with it being Pride Month, things like that, I was like, I want to get AJ on here to talk a little bit and inform not just me but anybody who might listen to this about your story, what the Pride Month means to you. How I know you went up to the parade a few weeks ago and seeing so many people up there being supportive. I'm sure that coming from a small rural little sometimes judgmental area that we do, being able to get to that big city and see people who are really supportive, and it's like I can just be myself. I'm sure that's got to make you feel pretty daggone good and kind of come out of your shell almost a little bit.
Oh yeah, yeah. Like you said, growing up in a small town, you really can't be different.
Right.
Even if you're the slightest bit of different, you get made fun of, or worse. So growing up, I was real. It was easy to hide, a lot of my stuff, and to jump into the big city, and to go to a pride event with 500,000 people,
Oh wow.
roughly is what they said. It was the largest one, and you don't have to look behind you or worry that someone's going to take offense, you know, just for you being yourself. It's like a huge weight lifted off your shoulders, and even if you take pride out of the situation, just me driving into Columbus, like earlier today, I had a doctor's appointment in Columbus, and just driving into Columbus, I felt a huge weight off my shoulders because I'm like, okay, I'm in an accepting city where I can be myself and I can walk down the streets of Columbus and not worry about having to take on some kind of confrontation where in the rural areas where I live now, it's a lot more difficult.
Right. Where are you at now? Are you in Jackson? Are you around the Wellston area? I don't even know, what part of the area that you're in.
Yeah, I'm in Jackson.
Okay.
Uh, me and my girlfriend have a house in Jackson. I'm still working at the Jackson Kroger there, and yeah, Jackson. The thing about Jackson is it's a lot more accepting than I thought it would be, and it really surprised me being a what I call a visibly transgender person. Like you can look at me and notice that my gender identity is not in part with what I was born as,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot it's been a lot more accepting than I thought. Now I have had run-ins with people, and I've had problems, with work and stuff like that, but for the majority, it's not been that bad, and it really surprised me. That made me think, made me had to rethink how I thought about the area,
Mm-hmm.
and I maybe a lot of people should rethink about the area because for the most part, it's been pretty accepting, and it's really been surprising.
And I think that just it's obviously changed since we were kids because I think it's more, people are more out and open now, and with the media being so big, and you see people coming out more as as straight or gay or bi or trans, whatever. And it's just, I think it's becoming more and more a part of society. People aren't looking like, what's wrong with this person? It's like there's nothing wrong with this person. What do you mean, But I think as we grew up in the 80s and 90s, there was still that stigma to a lot of things. And everybody just kind of like, oh man, you're different. I don't want to be involved with that. But I think now, even here, you see a lot of people who are more accepting. But I do notice there are people that I talk to who, are big in the church, are Christians. I'm a Christian, but I'm very acceptive of everybody. I see people who are big in the church who are blasting, somebody because they're different, which doesn't that kind of negate what a Christian or what, a person of the church is supposed to be about? So I don't understand that. I mean, if they want to have a thought of okay, this is an abomination. I can't get on board with it. That's fine, but kind of keep that stuff to yourself. Like, if you can agree or disagree, but you don't have to go out there and try to change somebody else's outlook on it. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, yeah, I totally agree with that. Like I've met people, in the church, and they'll have their opinion, and I'll tell them, it's perfectly fine. I'm not going to hate you for your opinion. You can say, if you want to sit at home and say, I don't agree with trans people, I don't agree with, gay people, lesbians, whatever, that's fine. You can sit at home, you can do that. If you use any kind of position of power you have to try to force that on people, that's where I have a problem with it. And,
Right.
a lot of it is, you know, when we was growing up, you'd look at how stereotypical was in movies. Trans people, gay people. You always had the flamboyant gay guy. You always had the the really horrible looking cross dresser that they were saying were transgender, and all it was
Exactly.
just stereotypical crap to poke
Right.
fun and use as humor.
I agree with
And
you.
I think you know media's gotten better at that. You
Hmm.
know, we have a lot of trans actors and actresses. We have Laverne Cox, we have Janet Mock. These people are doing amazing things in videos and movies. Uh, and I think the stereotypes starting to wash away a little bit, and people are starting to realize that what you saw on TV isn't reality. And if you actually get to know these people, if you actually sit down and talk to, you know, a member of the LGBT community, you'll realize they're just people, and they're not sick, they're not pariahs, they're just people, and they're living their life that they've been given,
Hmm.
and to judge someone just for living their life when they're not hurting anybody, you know, the 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 the, the gay couple down the street isn't hurting you, you know, the transgender individual down the road isn't hurting you. They're just living their life,
Right.
and I think that's what we just gotta understand. Is it's not bugging anybody out. Just let people live their life and be happy, and then everybody else will be happy.
That's that. Just be cordial. Be nice to somebody because they're another human being, man. Don't look at him. Oh, this is that a guy wearing lipstick? So what? He's not talking about your Crocs that you're wearing or your, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Hey, wear
yeah,
wear what you want to wear. Look what you want to look like. Be who you want to be. I don't understand and I think everybody, not everybody, but a lot of, younger kids, especially middle schoolers and high schoolers, again, especially from a smaller town like this, are going to be judgmental. It's just, it kind of comes along with the territory. There's people, I'm sure, you and I in high school, not necessarily picked on, but would kind of poke at and joke about. But when it came down to it, we were always friendly to them, or if they needed something, we would help them out. You know what I mean? But there's always those people who are going to be a little judgmental. But you kind of, as you evolve as a person, you should kind of grow out of that. Especially again, talking about hearing people here who are members of the church, and hearing them kind of not being accepting. That just doesn't make sense to me. Again, if you want to not agree with it, if you want to think it's a sin, that's fine, but I don't think you need to push that rhetoric on others. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, keep your. I always tell people that I keep my beliefs at my front door. You know,
Hmm.
and I don't try to put them out into the world. I don't try to push any of my beliefs at all on anybody because I'm not in the position to do that. Nobody's in the position to tell you what you should believe or how you should feel. You know, everybody's feelings are valid. You know,
Do you think some of that comes from, obviously, the media, pretty, the at least the big time, stations and things like that now are, I think you would agree, they're more liberal driven. You
oh
have
yeah, oh yeah,
your Fox Newses and all that stuff. Um, but the media in Hollywood and people who are in quote unquote power, people looking up to these actors and actresses, and for some reason, when just because they're in, a TV show you like, I mean, it doesn't mean you have to take what they say for, word for word or whatever. But I think a lot of it might have to do with those people kind of coming out and pushing their views on the younger generation, so they grow up not doing their own. I think this has to do with politics, even, and religion, pretty much anything. People are getting educated by news outlets anymore, instead of, let me do my own research, let me look into this, let me ask my parents, let me ask my friends. But they're taking it from everybody else. Maybe, again, maybe their parents are strict Fox News watchers, so, oh man, everything's just so right wing, or they're CNN watchers, so everything's just way to the left, anything goes type of mentality. Do you think that has a lot to do with it?
I think it does. I think we. I know this sounds like an old person talking. I'm only 37, but when I say this, I'm gonna sound like I'm 105. You know, people have gotten lazy. You know,
Hmm.
and if I can turn on CNN or if I can turn on Fox News, I have no problem watching Fox News. I have no problem watching CNN. You know, whatever channel I get my news from. You know, and but if I can get it, then I feel like it's there. Why not just consume it?
Hmm.
And then usually I end up saying something wrong and stupid, and I'm like, well, if I would just done my research, I wouldn't look like a moron. You
Right.
know?
Yeah. Yeah. You're watching one station and they're telling you this fact, and you turn to another station that says that fact was a lie, and they're telling you their side of the coin. It's like, well, who do I believe? But then you just realize they're kind of just pushing their agenda. Let me do the research, let me look into it, and then let me believe what I want to believe. I think that goes with anything. Just don't push your ideals. Don't be. I'm sure you guys had protesters and things like that up there at the parade as well. Which, again, if I, I don't have a problem with that. I think if they don't agree with it, they can protest as long as it's peaceful. Same with, you know anybody in the parade or up there supporting Pride Month. They shouldn't get violent with those protesters either. Hey, okay, you don't agree with me, I don't agree with you, but we can still live together and not be just ridiculous to each other. You know?
Oh yeah, like protest is if you do protesting the right way, it's one of the best ways to start dialogue between two sides to find a middle ground. Now you're not gonna convert people from one side to another if
Hmm.
they're that strong in their opinion, but you can find a middle ground, and
Absolutely.
that's if that's the best we can get, then I'll gladly take a middle ground. You know, like I said, I don't want to convert anybody's beliefs if they actually believe that, then that's what they believe, and I can't do anything about it. but we could find a middle ground to be peaceful, you know. But going back to the media for a second, uh, there's a funny story about uh, Richard Pryor, the famous comedian. You know, he
Yeah.
uh, he was watching the news one day, and one of the news reporters said something about Richard Pryor having AIDS, and he said, well, obviously he didn't have AIDS, and
Right.
he said, but a week later he got sick, and he started thinking, well, maybe I do have AIDS. He said, because the news is supposed to tell him the information. He's like, well, maybe I do have AIDS. Turned out he didn't have AIDS, but it's just like that. Like he got information from himself, from the media. He's like, well, maybe they're right, you know. Like he
Right.
didn't research it. He just thought, oh, CNN says this. It must be true.
That's funny.
So you gotta obviously do your research with everything, but the media has gotten a lot better, and a lot of it has to do with companies being more open and taking more chances with people that doesn't fit in the norm of what you would consider, the norm to be.
Right.
You know,
Right.
straight white male, straight white female, you know. And now they're starting taking chances. You're seeing a lot more people of color. You're seeing a lot more people in the LGBT community, you know, get these breaks and doing amazing things. Uh, the one guy that plays, I don't know his name to watch the show, the Big Bang Theory, the guy that plays Sheldon.
Oh yeah, that I'm not a fan of that show. Every time I see that guy on TV, I have to turn the channel. But
Yeah,
I think his name's Parsons. Jim Parsons,
Jim
maybe?
Parsons. Yes.
Yeah.
Now I hate the show.
Hmm.
Didn't find it funny. You know, that's for a different episode. Anyhow, but you know, he's done amazing things. He was one of the. If it wasn't for him on the show, I don't think the show would have been as big as it was.
Hmm.
And because CBS took a chance, they could have had, some straight white nerdy guy come in and do it. Probably wouldn't have been as good. They took a chance and they made millions off of it.
Right.
So now the company's starting to see that, instead of sticking to the standard we stuck with, if we open up the community to everybody, you know, everybody can take advantage of it. Everybody can have a good time. Everybody can make money off of it, and everybody enjoys what they watch, except me and you, because we don't like that show. But other than that,
Exactly. Yeah, I never understood the whole. I tried to give it a shot once or twice, and I just didn't get it. If it was like a half hour of Kelly Cuoco, I could probably watch it, but with the other cast members in there, I think that's the same show anyway. But yeah, I was never a fan, and when Parsons comes on, I'm like, I gotta turn it. But like you said, he's done great things for the community. And like I agree with the taking chances of hiring different, different genders, different race. If you look back at the old, I'll sit here sometimes with dad and watch old westerns, and I'm like, isn't that a white guy dressed up as an Indian? Like, couldn't they have
yeah,
hired
like,
couldn't they
like
have
where was
hired an
the Indians
Indian?
in the '70s? Did they all go somewhere? You know?
Exactly. It's like, well, same thing with, Pacino and Scarface. I'm like, wait a second.
Yeah.
But but I agree with, and you talked about Laverne Cox earlier, and I'm to segue for a second. I'm excited about the new season of Orange Is the New Black. I'm ready to get that final season in, and I think Laverne does a great job on there.
Oh yeah, I think she does a great job. But here's the thing, and it's another. Uh, I remember when I came out as transgender, people would always come to me, "What do you think about Orange is the New Black?" I'm like, "Well, I don't watch Orange is the New Black," and they're like, "Why not?" I'm like, "Because I don't like the show," and they're like, "But you're trans." I'm like, "Just because I'm trans don't mean I gotta watch, every show that trans people are in, you know."
Exactly.
And
I'm of Irish descent, but I don't like Lord of the Dance. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
see, you know. So again, a stereotypical thing. Oh well,
Right.
you're gay, you must watch this, you must like this. You're trans, you must like this, you must watch this. No, not really. You know,
Right.
but
Like you
but she
said.
but she is doing amazing things, and her career is skyrocketing, and it's all because one company decided to take a chance.
Hmm.
And again, you know, if you would have put, you know, a straight African American woman in there and pretended to be trans, yeah, they could do that. They do it all the time.
Right. So
You
they're
know,
an actor, right?
studios always get caught up doing that, and they get flack for it. You know,
Right.
yeah, it probably would have succeeded, and it probably wouldn't have been as good. You know?
Right. I agree. I agree. So we talked the other night, kind of changing not topics, but just kind of segueing over. Explain to me when we talked, and I was like, "What? How do you identify? What do you do identify as?" I know there's so many different categories now, and I don't want to be the one to mess it up and say something wrong. So why don't you kind of give me a little bit of a background on how you identify and how you kind of came to realize that is the specific area that okay, I see that I fall under this category compared to this one or that one.
Oh, okay. Uh, well, the first thing you gotta know about when you discuss gender identity is you'll come on two poles here. You'll have the male on one end, you have the female on the other end, and then you'll have a bunch of stuff in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
They call that the spectrum, just like a light spectrum.
Right.
Bunch of stuff. And if you went through all the stuff in the middle, it would take forever.
Mm-hmm.
But you just have to understand there's stuff in the middle. You can slide down the gauge. You know,
Mm-hmm.
the part of me where I fit on that gauge is what they call non-binary
Okay.
or gender fluid.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and with being gender fluid, the way my the way my body and mind works is one day I could wake up and I could feel very feminine, you know, and I will go out and I'll wear makeup and I'll you know wear what gender specific female clothing, and stuff like that, and that's what I feel comfortable with that day, and I might do that 3, 4, 5 weeks, until I wake up one day and my feeling changes, and then I'll be like, well, I don't feel completely on this side of the spectrum. Now I'm more towards the middle. So in that case, you know, maybe not a lot of makeup, you know, put on, my basketball shorts, a t-shirt.
Okay.
Some days you'll see me working and I got a beard, you know, because the past week I was feeling in that male gender identity. And it just fluctuates for me.
Okay.
And
Do you notice if are there things that make you again, this is just ignorance here and I want to learn, honestly. I just want to learn about it. Is there anything that kind of triggers that to say, okay, uh, that today I woke up feeling this way versus that way? Is there anything that kind of triggers that, or do you just it just happens one day? I feel like okay, here's what I'm gonna like you said, I'm gonna throw on some basketball shorts and a t-shirt and grow a beard, as compared to waking up and being like okay, I'm gonna throw in some earrings and some makeup and things like that. Is there anything that kind of and when I say triggers, I don't mean that in a bad way. I just mean is there something that kind of uh, I don't know how to explain it, like a different mood, a different feel. Do you know, like say you go to bed Sunday night, with your basketball shorts on. Monday you wake up and you feel totally opposite. Can you feel that coming on? Is that something that, or is it something that just happens when you get up that day and you notice like, okay, here's what I think today. Does that make sense?
oh yeah, it all makes perfect sense. I tend to feel it coming on, and what I'll do is I'll kind of slowly gauge it because oddly enough, when I feel it comes on, it kind of feels like depression. It's a weird feeling, But like I might have the beard, and I was like, man, I'm not really feeling, happy. So I'll try to think about why I'm not feeling happy. I'll shave the beard, I'll trim it up a little bit. If that makes me feel a little better, then I know, okay, well, this is going to happen. So I can feel it kind of coming on beforehand. It's not like I go to bed, like you said, Saturday night, and then Sunday wake up and it just clicks in my mind.
Okay.
I do kind of feel it coming on. Not just because I feel it. I mean, everybody is like that.
Sure.
Some people, it might be they'll wake up Sunday morning and bam, it just clicks. But for me, it is. I do feel it coming on, and I try to slowly go into it only because it makes life easier in this area if you have a beard Saturday night and you wear makeup Sunday morning. the people that saw you Saturday night are gonna look at you weird.
Mm.
You know, so
Right.
and that's just the area.
Sure.
I see the same people every day.
Right.
In my job, I talk to the same people every day. So, and they'll come to me and they'll say, "Hey, you had a beard yesterday, and today, you're wearing eyeliner and earrings. What's going on?" And you only get 30 seconds to explain it to them while you're checking out
Exactly.
their groceries.
Exactly.
So,
It's kind of hard to get into a
you
deep
know,
discussion at that point, huh?
so you just tell them, "Oh, just try something new or whatever," and send them on their way. And
Sure.
usually they're good with that. So, but yeah, it's definitely for me. It's a process. Usually over a few days to get back to where I'm feeling happy, and then I flow with it until I get that feeling again. And I wish I had a better time frame about it. Like I wish it said every 2 weeks you're going to change, because then I
Right.
would know every 2 weeks. But like I said, I might go 3 weeks, I might go 2 days, and it kind of in this area it throws it into a loop because then you got to worry about the questions and all that.
Gotcha. That makes sense. Well, I appreciate you explaining that. We were talking a couple days ago, and you kind of mentioned the non-binary gender identity, and I'd heard of it, but I didn't know a whole lot about it. And just looking a couple things up, I know that's how you told me that you present. And it said on one of the things I read that like 25 to 35% of the transgender population identify as non-binary. Like, do you kind of notice that too when you're out and about talking? If you're at the parade or if you're hanging out with others who, you know, do you notice that trend as well?
Yeah, I really have. And I think a lot of it has to do with just getting the education out there because when I was 16 and I got diagnosed with what they call gender identity disorder. A therapist diagnosed me with having gender issues,
Hmm.
and she the therapist said, okay, you know, you're male and you want to be female. There was no discussion of non-binary or gender fluid or nothing. Back
Sure.
then, if you was male, you want to be female. If you're female, you want to be male. There was nothing in between. So you didn't have the education about gender fluid. So a lot of people didn't know. So they went all the way to the end of the spectrum, and a lot of people were happy there, but a lot of people weren't.
Hmm.
And then they would try to bounce between the two, and you know back then you didn't have the internet, you didn't have you know all the education we have now. Now you can type in transgender, and Jesus, just everything pops up.
Right.
You have all this information, so you can pinpoint where you are and say, okay, this is what I want to be. This makes me happy.
Sure.
And I think that's why you're seeing a lot of non-binary and a lot of gender fluid, is because now they know about it. Now they have something they can point to and go, yes, this makes me happy.
Hmm. That makes sense. Yeah. Well, can we backtrack a little bit? I know, like I said, you kind of sent me a link to a previous little short kind of documentary type thing that you did a few years back. Can we backtrack a little bit and you kind of get into when when you first noticed that things were quote unquote different? And I don't mean that in a bad way. Things that you didn't you started feeling like, man, I'm not sure where I'm at here. You know what I mean? Was that something that you were young, like really young, and didn't understand at the time, or was it a little bit later when you started feeling like, okay, what's going on with my body here?
Oh, well, it was really young. I mean, we're talking, uh, I want to say like 7, 8 years old. Like I knew something was when I back then I said something was wrong. You know,
Hmm.
I I didn't feel right. You know, acting how I acted, dressing how I dressed. You know, and even like my hair, like everything just threw me off. Like this isn't right. This isn't what I should be. And I would, I would have clothes hidden that I would wear if no one was home, and I felt better. Makeup, and you know, 8 years old, you can't put on makeup. Jesus, it looks horrible. But just I mean, it was rough. But doing that, just something triggered my mind, like, hey, this is I see this on TV, and that's what I want to be. You know,
Mm-hmm.
but when you're being raised in a Jehovah Witness household, you don't bring that stuff up. you know, I
Right.
mean,
Yeah, a little touchy, little touchy. I'm
you
sure at
know,
that, especially at that age.
yeah, I mean, it's just something you don't do. I remember there was a fad back when we was growing up where you get lines in your head.
Oh yeah.
We go
Oh,
down to Gary Canner, he'd shave little lines inside your head.
absolutely. I had that for sure. Lightning bolts, lines. Yep.
Yeah, and I got that done, and the church accused me of being gay because I had lines in my head. I mean, I don't know how those two coincide,
Yeah, just
I,
ignorance.
but I
Ignorance.
knew if they were calling me gay because of that, then oh darn, this other thing's really gonna cause a trouble, you know.
Right.
So I hid it, for years, and then when I was 16, I got to the point where I couldn't take it, and I attempted suicide.
Mm-hmm.
And then I met this therapist, and we started talking, and the therapist like, this is what's going on. It's not you're sick. It's this is what you need to be. This is where you're gonna find your happiness. Is you know stop acting like this and start being yourself.
Right. And that was at 16. You
Yeah,
thought I can't take this already, and I'm gonna try to just end my life here at 16.
yeah, yeah.
Wow.
That was. I mean, summer night just drive. I drove my S10 right off the cliff. I was just driving, and I said I can't go home and be Shane anymore. And there's no other choice. So just whoo. And luckily, you know, survived that. Now, but at the time it was the only thing I could think of.
Wow. I can't imagine being 16 and all I was thinking about was going to the pool or jumping on the trampoline and playing
Yeah,
track down at 16.
yeah,
I read where I think it said 41% of quote unquote gender diverse adults have attempted suicide between, I think it was between, or no, I'm sorry, it was 30% of adolescents between 12 and 22. That's what I read the other day. So 30% between 12 and 22 of quote unquote, transgender youth had committed or attempted to commit suicide. That's just ridiculous. That's 30%. That's just mind-boggling.
yeah. I mean the rates for for just the transgender community is insane, and a lot of it is because there's not access to the help they need. You
Hmm.
know, even uh, even today, I remember a couple years ago I went to a therapist here in town, and I talked to him, and they said, "What's your problem?" And I said, "Hey, I got these gender issues, and I'm transgender." And they said, "Oh, I think I've heard about that."
Oh wow.
And I said, "Oh, so you probably can't help me." And she said, "Well, no, I don't think I can because I don't know anything about it." And I mean, she was honest, so I can't, fault her for that. You know,
Right. But if you're going to be
so
a therapist, especially nowadays, if you're going to be a therapist, shouldn't you? That should be kind of in the bag of tricks that you have there. You should know
yeah,
about that stuff.
yeah. But like I said, this area, it don't come up.
Right.
I'm sure if I go to Columbus, every therapist I talk to will be like, "Oh yeah, I know about that, and we can do this and da, da, da." Down here, it's a little different. You know.
Right. Well, going back to like when we were kids, man, I hope there was never a time that we made you feel, any different. Because obviously we like I said, we've been buddies for a long time, and I think I might have sent you this text the other day. I can't remember. I know we had texted a couple times, but I was looking through some old papers out here in mom and dad's building, and it had my school pictures from like kindergarten up to like fourth grade. It was in this little book where you're supposed to write different things about, oh, these are my classmates, or these are new friends that I met this year. And first grade, it had Dustin Davis and you listed. So that's how long we go back to the first grade. That was new friends that I met. So, I hope growing up, obviously kids you don't know anyway, but I hope there was never a time that we kind of, where you felt that we put any pressure on you or made you feel a way that you didn't deserve to feel.
Oh no, no, no. I was lucky. I mean, I had a really good group of friends. I had you, I had Dustin, um, Brandon, Troy. I had a bunch of really good friends growing up, and none of you, like, we never excluded anybody.
Mm-hmm.
We anybody wanted to come play track down or play backyard basketball or trampoline wrestling or whatever. We didn't care as long as you wasn't a dill hole and you were cool with everybody. You got to be involved. So
Right.
I was lucky to have you know the group I hung out with, and I didn't venture far from that group because I knew there was other groups that but but the
Right.
group
Yeah, there
the
was.
group I had was very solid.
Right. Well, I'm glad, man. We had a lot of fun. Remember playing the track down. I don't know if you remember the night we sat out there on my trampoline till like 2 or 3 in the morning,
Oh yeah,
just
oh yeah,
talking talking about girls. Remember that?
oh
Talking about,
yeah.
okay, so this girl, that girl, that dude. It was that seems like it was yesterday, and that was probably 25 years ago.
Oh, at least. I
Oh my
mean,
gosh.
but I mean,
And of
that's
course,
how it was.
getting almost getting arrested for being, hiding on rooftops. And
Hiding on rooftops.
you didn't break
And
into the pool with us, did you? That wasn't you. I think that was
no,
me. I think that
no.
was me and Hank. Me and Hank Hager one one night. We just pulled the fence up, slid under. We were gonna run to the other side and jump over until we got to the other side and realized that's a bit higher than we
Yeah.
anticipated. so so I remember we run back, and as soon as we're getting ready to come out, some dude's like, "Stop right there," and he called the cops on us. It's like, bro, come. I mean, what are we gonna do? We're at the pool. The worst thing I could. What am I gonna drop a deuce in the
Yeah.
pool? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not gonna do anything there. There's no money. There's nothing to. We were just having fun, man, hiding in trees, and like I said, getting the cops called a few times. I think
Yeah.
that was kind of at least a once a month occurrence where they would kind of come and see us. But we had a lot of fun in those days.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Then life got in the way and it all went to pot. Yeah.
Man, no kidding. That's I don't see, the guys that you talked about, I hardly see. I keep in touch with Dustin a little bit. We text. I went up and saw him a year and a half or so ago, before I went to Hawaii, and we had lunch and got to catch up a little bit. But I keep in touch with him because we both still kind of watch pro wrestling a little bit, so we kind of talk about that. Hey, what's going on here? What's going on there? And I actually tried to have him on a podcast, to talk a little bit about wrestling, but he said no because I don't know. I think just getting on there and talking about wrestling, I don't know, man. But hopefully I can get him. So hopefully we can. He'll listen to this one, and he'll agree to kind of come on with me and talk a little bit about wrestling. But I talk to Brandon occasionally, of course, Bub and Wade. I, you know, I, I talk to them as much as possible, but it's just not. It's not much anymore, and I hate that we kind of fell out of touch. We didn't have a falling out. There was never any like, I don't want to talk to him anymore, or you know what I mean. It was just like you said, life kind of got in the way, and you got married, and I know you kind of moved away for a while, and then things were just kind of with me going to school and getting a job, and now traveling here and traveling there. It's kind of hard, but I hope this, texting here and talking on this will kind of open our communication line back up, and we can, stay in touch a little more frequently, and
Oh yeah. Yeah.
hopefully get together before I head back out. I'm starting another rotation in Hawaii here in July for at least 6 months. Been pretty blessed to be able to. This will be my third time over there working. So, but hopefully get with you before that. But again, that's for us to talk about later. I want to keep talking. If you still have time, are you good
Oh
on
yeah.
time?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm good on time.
Okay, so I know you were talking about kind of, as a teenager, you kind of went and saw the therapist, and then you, like you said, you thought, man, I can't take this anymore. I'm gonna just take this truck and head off this, try to end it. I can't remember that. I can't remember. Uh, is that something that was talked about? Did we just think you were in an accident? I can't remember.
It didn't get talked. I was in a hospital in Columbus for about a week after it was perfect timing because like we just started winter break.
Okay.
So I spent the entire winter break in the hospital, and then I spent like another week out of school, and then I showed up, but like I didn't talk too much about it.
Sure.
And in this same time, I talked to this therapist, and the therapist was like, "You need to do this if you want to be happy." And I was like, "That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do this gender transition. I'm gonna be happy." Then I met Amanda.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, huh, I really like this girl. If I open my mouth and tell her this, she's not going to like me. And she's kind of hot, so I kind of want to stay with it. So I didn't do what I was supposed to do. I shut my mouth and I hid it from her for 14 years, you know,
Wow.
and during those 14 years, attempted suicide 4 more times.
Mm. Wow.
So, and then, finally, I said, listen, I, I can't keep trying to kill myself every 3 years.
What? Not to interrupt, but what was her thoughts on that? Like, when this happened, did she think there was something else wrong? Not that this is wrong, but did she think there was something wrong that she was doing, or like why is this guy that I'm with, why is he trying to kill himself?
I was real good at kind of deflecting it. Like I would tell her, I'm just depressed, it's just
Mm,
depression and it's just a chemical thing, depression, bipolar,
right.
and because I wouldn't even tell the doctors this is the real reason, you know, I would just
Right.
say it's depression, whatever. And it was because I was depressed because I didn't think I could be myself, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, finally one day I just told her, I said, listen, this is really what's going on. And boy, did that not go well.
And this and this is how long had you been married at this point when you told her?
10 years.
Wow. See, I didn't
Yeah.
even realize you were married that long.
Yeah, we was together 14 years, married for 10. And
Wow. So finally, just kind of had it to the point where you're like, okay, I'm either gonna explode or I have to get this out. Like I have to tell her what's going on.
yeah, because the last attempt before I told her was real close. Like, and that's what woke me up. It's like, holy crap, I almost died. I almost completed this stupid mission that I was put out to do.
Right.
You know, and I was like, I can't do that again. I have to take this other chance and be myself and see where it goes.
Hmm.
And you know, it didn't end well, but that's okay. You know,
From watching the thing the other night, it sounded like she was kind of. And again, if I'm bringing up things that you don't want to talk about, feel free to say, "Whoa, dude, that's no problem. We can cut that out or whatever." Um, but it seemed like she took it well at first, or she took it at least not too bad. Like you thought, okay, she's gonna be able to handle this. We've been together 14 years. She'll be able to handle this. She seems to be going along with it. And then what happened?
yeah, that's exactly how it was. When I told her, she's like, okay, we'll get the therapy you need. We'll go through this, piece by piece, and we'll get you where you need to be. You know, and it from there it went pretty good for a little while, and I think it finally dawned on her that this is what's going to happen. You know, and it from there it went pretty good for a little while, and I think it finally dawned on her that this is what's going to happen.
So you think maybe she was holding out for a bit, hoping you would, quote, change, like, oh, I can change that, and
Yeah,
and
I think
she'll be Shane all the time, but maybe when she realized no, that's just not who this person is, then she kind of said, okay, I need to, reevaluate things.
yeah, I think she went into it thinking, okay, this is a phase. Once they see what's all encompassing this, they'll get out of this phase. And then when it was evident I wasn't, because it wasn't a phase, this is what I was really what I am. I think that and a lot of outside opinions got in her mind, you know, because again, she grew up in a very conservative household. She had very conservative friends. So,
Sure.
and it's a lot to take in when you think, here's a person I've known for 14 years, and then bam, it's something totally different.
Sure, and I think even you said you understood. Like hey, I understand.
Yeah.
It's
Oh
like
yeah.
I'm hoping I'm throwing this out there. I still love you. I'm hoping that this won't change anything, but yeah, you probably knew that at least some things would change. Now whether you thought it would end the marriage or either way, but I'm sure you knew it's going to change in one way or the other. Something's probably not going to be exactly the same as we've always had.
Oh yeah. Yeah. If it didn't change, it would be totally weird.
Right.
Because that's a big change. You know, and I kind of I thought about that before I said it. I said I'm pretty sure it's going to end my relationship, but it's going to save my life. And so that's the chance I had to take because I wanted to have a happy life with myself.
Right.
And I'd rather do it, when we were 30 than 60,
Right.
So yeah, I knew it was going to change, but you know, it's okay. We're both in happy places now, so
That's good, man. Like you said, it's better to that you're happy with who you are instead of being with someone but being miserable. Because if you're going to be miserable, going on pretending, you're not going to be able to give that person the love that they deserve either. So it's two people kind of getting cheated. You know what I mean?
oh yeah, definitely wasn't fair to her, and like I said, that's why I had to do it then. I couldn't wait till I'm 60 and say, hey, by the way, I'm going to do this now, and then she feels like her whole life has been taken away. I can't do that to somebody. I hid from myself long enough,
Right.
and I lost, years of my life of being happy. So I couldn't take that from someone else.
Sure. Sure. And looking back, and I hope this doesn't come off like sounding horrible because I don't mean it like this at all. But looking back, when we were kids, and there were definitely times when you were a little more quiet. There were times where you were jovial and laughing, and because I think, and I don't know if this was a deflection, but one big thing with you when we were kids, and even to this day, again, I haven't talked to you for a few years, but up until then anyway, was you enjoyed making people laugh. Like, I'm going to make somebody else laugh. But then there were other times, and it was just maybe me and you, or if we were out and about with other friends, that you could see you were kind of not depressed, but just a little standoffish. Do you agree with that? Do you think that you kind of felt that way? Like, if I can make everybody else laugh, I can kind of mask what's going on inside me for a couple minutes, seeing other people happy and smiling. Well, then that makes me a little bit happy, and it kind of masks the stuff that I'm dealing with, if that makes sense.
I learned at a very young age that if you make people laugh, then they're busy laughing and they can't laugh at you. Like if you're making them laugh, they're not going to poke fun at you. They're not going to find things wrong with you because they're too busy laughing. And so I used humor, even to this day to deflect everything. My depression and my gender disorder and all that. I use humor for all of it because humor is how I cope. You know, if I can poke fun at something, then it's not as scary.
Mm-hmm.
And if I can educate people with humor, then I think they get it a little easier. And I use a lot of self-deprecating humor.
Right.
Kind of like Dangerfield. He'd always put himself down, to get
Right.
jokes. He was probably the best that did it.
That makes sense.
But if people laugh at you, like I said, that they're less to make fun of you because they see worth in you, even if you're making them laugh.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
That's the funny kid.
Sure.
He makes us laugh, so he can hang out with us.
Sure. And to an extent, I have a lot of insecurities. Not turning this into obviously turning into a me story or anything, but I have a lot of insecurities, and there are times I do that. I like making people laugh. I like, telling a joke or saying something funny, or just making people laugh and smile, and seeing that, again, like you said, it kind of gives you where you feel like you have that worth and that value, and it makes you feel better, seeing other people laugh, you know?
Yeah, I mean, every every group you have to find where you fit in, you know. And growing up, I never thought I'd fit in with my group. You know, like I had you and Dustin, and you guys were like the sports guys and the popular guys and stuff like that. And I wasn't none of that. You know, I wasn't popular. I wasn't, you know, I wasn't. I played sports. I wasn't, great at them. Yeah, the old Jordan finger roll, but you know, but I tried to be the funny one. You know, I tried to have the jokes. I tried to, make people laugh because that's all I had to go on. And
it kind of hurts me to hear you say that. Like, and I know you don't mean it in a hurtful way, but to think back then that, man, this guy doesn't feel part of us, because you were part of us. We were all. I mean, it was for a long time. It was me, you, and Dustin. It was us three meeting here in the mornings and watching. What do we watch in the mornings? Garfield.
Garfield.
For
yeah.
Watching that and then heading off to school.
Yeah. Like I knew that I had to be something else, because like if you look at the group, you were all sports guys. You were all, popular. Like I had to use humor because I wanted to fit in with you guys. I was like, oh, these are the cool kids, and they're not douchebags. They're actually decent people. These are the people I want to hang out with. So I kind of had to find a niche. And I used humor, and then later on I used the computer nerdiness that I have.
I've used you on that nerdiness many times, and I'm truly grateful for that. I wouldn't even know how to use a computer probably if it wasn't for you. I'm like, Shane, I got this. I got to give you a call. I got this new computer, but I don't know what to do. I'll be right over.
Yeah, but see, I knew I couldn't be who I wanted to be.
And that makes me sad, and it's not, and I'm sure a lot of people feel that same thing and feeling like they don't fit in. But man, from my perspective, I'm sure Dustin feels the same way. You were one of us, man. We didn't look at you any different. We didn't treat you any different. I mean, you were one of us. You were always.
Oh yeah. I didn't feel like I was treated different. I felt like I was part of the group, but it wasn't me that's part of the group. You know what I'm saying?
I understand.
You guys were getting Shane.
Right. Kind of playing a role. Yeah, playing a role of Shane.
Nerd.
Yeah.
When I wanted to be, AJ, I wanted to be, happy, with the makeup and the clothes, but I knew I couldn't be that way. And it wasn't because of the group of people I was with. It was just because I knew of the area, and I knew
society, yeah.
The troubles that would come with it. And I was like, I'm not ready to go down that path, and deal with all that, because I knew I couldn't deal with it, mentally.
Sure.
I
feel like I'm so glad we grew up in the 80s and 90s for 95% of the things. Everything was so simple. We were always outside playing. You didn't have to worry about anything. And now, kids are inside all the time on their computers, whatever. But in other ways, like you said, stereotypes, things like that were so, in the 80s and 90s, man, there were words that were thrown around that, just hurtful words. To now look at it and hear someone say it, it's like, what? Like, people were called this, or they were looked differently because of dressing different, or wearing. I mean, remember when it was a big deal to have your ear pierced? Remember that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh my God, he's got his ear pierced. What? He must be gay. Like, or he just likes to wear an earring. When I was 18, I got my ear pierced. Like, you know what I mean? I don't understand. I never understood why people were treated differently, even race, gender, religion, whatever. It's like, dude, gender has no, just be kind to everybody. You know what I mean? Kindness has no gender. It's like, just be nice to people. But I definitely feel people are kind of more accepting now, like we were talking about. Even in the rural areas like here, you do see, and you see a lot more people that we graduated with or younger who have come out. I have my cousin, I'm sure she wouldn't have a problem being on here or saying anything, but when she came out to her folks, I know it was difficult for her folks. But to me, it's like, why? Is she happy? Like, what makes a difference if she's straight or gay, or what makes a difference? And I've had conversations with my uncle before about that. I'm like, dude, it's your child. Who cares? Shouldn't you just care if she's happy? That's all that matters. Like, I don't get why you would treat somebody different or look at somebody differently. That stuff just doesn't make any sense to me. And I think that's where kids today have it a little bit better than we had it, because it's more out there and people are more accepting of that type of thing.
Oh yeah, I agree. I remember when I came out to my family. It was back like they didn't even know until 2012.
Mm-hmm.
After I told Amanda, I told my family, and I remember telling my older brother, and he's gay, and he had no problem with it. My mom seemed a little shocked, but again, she had no problem with it. And I remember, you know my younger brother,
Mm-hmm.
And
right.
he's kind of country and kind of,
riding a lawnmower down the road. Hey, Mark,
works construction, and kind of like a manly guy. And I told him, I said, hey, this is what's going on, and this is what's going to happen. And I remember he goes, well, I don't know much about that, but if anybody causes you trouble, I'm kicking their ass. And I said, that's all I ask,
Right.
And to this day, he's still, I'm like, what do you think about it? He's like, I haven't looked into it. I said, why? He's like, I don't care. He's like, you are who you are, and I love you, and if they messes with you, they have to come deal with me. So,
See? That's good. Good for him, man. Good for him.
And I got lucky. I got a good family. They're really accepting. I got a good girlfriend. I told her straight off the bat when I first met her. I was like, this is the deal. This is what's going on. You're either on the boat or you're not. But, it's up to you. And I'm still going to be friends with you either way. Mm-hmm. And she was totally accepting. And then she told me her dad was a naval officer and, very right wing. And I was like, oh, crap. And
right.
Then we went out to their house and met with them. Couldn't have been a nicer guy.
See? See, I think most people are accepting once they see that their kid, even if they may disagree with the lifestyle, when they see their kid happy and then they meet, you're going to have those preconceived notions about anything. When you meet somebody and see, like, this is a good person. I don't care if they're a man, woman, whatever. That's just a good human being. I think they'll be pretty open and pretty accepting to that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And, I'm not, I always tell people, I'm not looking for, 100% acceptance. I'm not going to ask her dad to go dress shopping with me. I know it's not going to happen. That's just, and I don't expect it, but he treats me like a human being.
Right.
And he's a great stand-up guy. And then, like I said, that was me being stereotypical, saying, oh, he's, he was this military guy and this tough guy, and he's not going to be accepting. I was the fool.
Right. That's well said. That's a good point, because I'm sure you look at it differently now, thinking, well, they're going to think of me different, so I'm going to be thinking of them differently. Yeah, that's a really good point.
Yeah, like it's not just one side that can be stereotypical. You'll find people doing that, everywhere, every color, every race, every gender. Everybody has to struggle with, try and look beyond, prejudices and stuff like that. And I think if we all do that and be mindful of it and get it out of our system before we interact with people, then everybody will be a happier place for everybody.
Absolutely. I agree. I was looking back, and again, after we talked the other day, I did a little bit of research, just looked up a couple different things. But I remember back in the 80s and even into the 90s when it was kind of classified as a gender identity disorder. And just reading those words, I'm like, disorder? Like, that just sounds so like this person has something wrong with them. You know what I mean? when I hear that, does disorder make you feel? What does that make you feel like if you hear, oh, you have a disorder? Like, I don't have a disorder. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, like when I got diagnosed when I was 16, it was gender identity disorder, and I felt like, oh, like it's like a medical disorder, like I have a broken arm or I have cancer. It's something I need to get treated. You know, and
Right.
a lot of that, because the doctors get to pick what they call things.
Mm-hmm.
And when this all came about, the doctors, it wasn't a it wasn't as mainstream as it is now.
Sure.
It was still kind of in the closet, and no one talked much about it and stuff like that. And I think the disorder is because they looked at it and said this is not normal, and I think that's where the disorder came from. And luckily they've changed it, and now it's not even, I think in the new DSM it's not going to be like a medical diagnosis of anything.
Right.
It went from disorder to a gender dysphoria to now I think
dysphoria. That was
I think
the last
it's now
one I
gender
saw.
dysphoria, but it's not like a medical illness. It's just you're not. Your brain says you're this. Your body says you're this. Let's try to get the two in some kind of harmony.
Right.
And there's people like me who take I take hormone treatments and testosterone blockers, and I'm gonna get surgery and all this. And there's a lot of transgender people that don't do any of that.
Right.
And it's not like one size fits all. Like, oh, you're trans, you gotta take these pills and you gotta do this. There's some people that are trans and they do, certain things make them happy.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not a one size fits all type of treatment, which I think is a good thing, because otherwise there'd be a lot of people taking pills that don't need them.
Right.
But yeah, the disorder thing, you felt broken. You felt like something is wrong. You felt out of the norm. Like you felt abnormal because they're telling you you're not normal.
Right. Yeah, that makes me upset. You know what I mean? That it's like, why would you? Because somebody's a little quote unquote different, because they think differently than you, they have a disorder, or they feel differently than you. It's a disorder. What?
Yeah.
Just reading that kind of like, yeah, I didn't. Holy crap. Yeah. But I think we've come a long way. I think it's more accepting now, and that's a good thing.
Oh yeah. And I think it'll get better. I mean, there's if you look in the news and the government with the trans troop banning and stuff like that.
That's one thing, man. Talking about the news and the troops and things like that. I know, not to get political, because we won't. I'm not touching on politics, but I know when I can't remember the exact how he did it, but Obama was like, it's open. I don't care what race you are, what gender you are, anybody you want to enlist in the military, you enlist. I don't care if you're a transgender. And I know when Trump came in, he kind of had there was a lot of backlash because he was like, no transgenders in the military. But I think he has since kind of came back on that a little bit and been like, anybody who, identifies as a transgender that's already in the military can stay in the military, but we're not accepting any, new people in the military who are transgendered. That's something I had read not long ago, and I don't know if that's still the fact, but I think that was the case up until maybe early this year at some point, which to me is just, again, not getting too political, but I was an Obama fan. I'm not necessarily a Trump supporter or anything like that, but I think Obama was 100% right on this one. I don't understand why it would make a difference as to if somebody wants to serve and protect our country. What matters?
Yeah, I mean, I'm the same way, and I think if you want to join the military and you want to, protect this country, God bless you. You should do it, and you shouldn't be stopped just because, of your gender identity.
Right.
Because there's whatever enemies we have. they're not going to care who they're shooting. You know, male, female, non-binary, whatever. They're going to come attacking. You know, and I don't care who's outside my house protecting me, male, female, non-binary.
Exactly,
you know?
right? What makes it different?
If they want to put their life on the line to save me, God bless them. Go do it. You know.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And like I said, that's one thing I really agreed with the previous administration. Like, hey, man, obviously he was a little bit more, you know, a little bit more, well, a lot more liberal. But in that instance, and again, not getting too political, I strive to be right, kind of down the middle. Um, I just want people to get along, man. Let's everybody get along and work for us in this country, not trying to divide people, which depending on which side you're on, you look at the previous regime and say, well, they did plenty of stuff to divide us. Or you look at this regime and say, well, they're doing plenty of stuff to divide us. Again, you're never going to win anybody over. And I think that's when like we talked about earlier, the protest is a good way to start a dialogue. Well, I think that's what needs to happen with Republican, Democrat. Hey, man, how about we have a dialogue and see what's best for our country? Let's not try to fight each other. And that's the same way with this. Let's have a dialogue, a peaceful dialogue. And okay, you're trans, I'm straight, but we can get along. There's no reason for us to look at each other differently. I think that translates, to anything really.
Yeah, I think the problem is the last politician that got the whole country together was George Washington. And after that, it's been downhill.
Right.
You know, like ever since then, there's been two sides. You know, and they never agree. You know, and I mean, I don't know. I voted my first ever election. I voted for George Bush.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and then I voted for Obama. You know, that was the other one I voted in.
Mm-hmm.
And so I voted. Both tickets. You know, Republican, Democrat.
Sure. I think
because I try not to see people as Republican and Democrat.
Right. That's how it should be.
I think this guy's going to be okay. Okay. Now I think this guy's going to be okay. You know, I struck out because I didn't get Bernie in the last one. That's okay. You know?
He's a different kind of cat.
He God bless him. He's too far out there. Like when we're talking about spectrums and you got, here's the left and here's the right, he's somewhere like top right corner off the map. You know?
He's bouncing back and forth.
Yeah, like he can't even plot him. But God bless him.
That's a whole different show right there.
Yeah,
the whole political thing, man. I try to pretty much stay away from, because again, you'll hear people talking and just ignorance. People hear it because they heard it on CNN or because they heard it on Fox News. They think it's fact and they don't dig into things. Then it just gets my blood boiling. It's like, you're an idiot. You're just ignorant. You're not an idiot. You're just ignorant. And it's pretty typical for people to be ignorant. Hey, there's plenty of topics that I'm ignorant on, such as why I'm having this conversation with you now, because I want to learn. And I really appreciate you talking to me about it, because, for a long time I wasn't sure. I'm like, man, I want to talk want to talk and see what's going on. But I there were times I really didn't know what to say or how to approach things with you. You know what I mean? And not meaning that in a bad way. It's like, I don't want to intrude. I don't want to say something wrong, or I don't want to be ignorant enough to sound like, man, this guy's ignorant. And I know you wouldn't have treated me like that had we talked previously.
Oh, yeah,
I wanted to feel like there was a more comfort level between both of us. So you could say, because I'm sure anytime you're talking to any of the friends you grew up with, I'm sure it's still, how are they going to accept it? What are they going to say? What are they going to think? And I know we talked the other night that you said there were, friends that we grew up with that kind of pulled away from you after you came out. And that's sad. That's to throw away a friendship that somebody you grew up with and had a lot of fun with just because of what went down. And I don't know if those relationships have been repaired since that little documentary thing you did. I hope they have. I hope, one side's reached out to the other and just been like, hey, look, this is me. I have nothing against you. I hope you don't have anything against me. I still care about you. I'm sorry, we can't agree on things, but that shouldn't have ruined a friendship,
Oh, yeah. It shouldn't have. It did. But, and I got real tore up for it. Like I'd sit there and I'd say, I lost all these friends, and I would say, maybe if I go back to being Shane, I'll get all these friends back. And then I'm like, well, that's not fair to anybody, because then they're friends with Shane, and Shane's not real, you
Right.
know.
But it's not, I mean, especially not fair to you. And that's the thing you should
Yeah,
look at the most. If somebody can't accept you, man, that's just sad. They can't accept you for what you are, who you are. Is how much of a friend are they? You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah. It's weird how it just over one thing like that really doesn't affect anything can destroy relationships. But I mean, also in the same way, I got a lot of new relationships because
Sure.
I, when new people come to work, I'll know they talk to somebody because they'll come up to me and they'll go, "Hey, AJ, I heard something about you," and I automatically know what they're going to say. And I'll say, "Oh, what was it? This?" And they'll say, "Yeah. What's up with that?" And I'll explain to them, this is how it is, and like, "Oh, okay, that's cool." And it's always the younger generation that's all like, "Oh, that's cool," you
Mm-hmm.
know. The older generation's like, "Oh, I don't understand that." I'm like, "Well, you don't have to understand it.
Exactly.
You just
Kind
have
of
to deal with it." Yeah.
that's it. Yeah, kind of the old stuck in their ways. Again, kind of rural Appalachian mentality of I don't agree with it. I don't even want to try to find out why. It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. I don't agree with this or don't agree with that, but I'm not really sure why. I just don't.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. I mean, things are scary to people that don't understand. You know, I don't understand physics a whole lot. So
Right.
so it scares me if someone starts talking about physics because I can't engage in the conversation. I don't know enough about it. So I just
Sure.
I get away from that subject as fast as I can.
Sure. And then you don't start asking questions. You know what I mean?
No,
It's
no,
like,
yeah.
okay.
I'm like, oh, forget about that. Let's go somewhere else. So I get why they're like that, but because they don't want to educate themselves, I think that's the problem.
Right. I agree. Just that ignorance, that lack of education on a certain topic, man. Get in there and learn. Get in there and learn. And then if after you learn, if you don't want to, if you still don't want to agree, okay, it still sucks. But at least I can kind of respect that you put in the effort to think of a reason why you don't like me. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, if you educate yourself on a situation and you say I still don't agree with it, and that's all you say, like if you don't try to change me or try to make my life any harder, I'm good with you. We can still be friends, so hang out. You don't have to agree with my lifestyle to treat me decently. And the same with me. There's tons of stuff I don't agree with people about, you know, and I can still treat them decently because we're all humans. We all got to share the space.
Absolutely. And I was watching Seinfeld the other day, and I don't know if you're a Seinfeld fan or not, but I think they were a little bit ahead of the curve too. Being I think that show started in late '80s or early '90s and went to like '98 or whatever. But they were tackling topics. There was a couple gay characters. There was a lesbian character there. I don't remember if there was any if they touched on any kind of transgender or anything like that. I don't think they did. But they were kind of ahead of the curve back then. So it's neat to look back and see, wow, they were kind of pushing the envelope, but being accepting even back then. So you could see that trend kind of starting where it's okay, if you're different, quote unquote.
Yeah, I remember the first TV show that I saw a person that it was a male and he would sometimes wear female clothes and they didn't treat him any differently for it. And it was the Drew Carey show.
Oh yeah, his
And
brother.
his brother,
Yeah, I forgot about that.
was a cross dresser. But they didn't make him the butt of jokes about being that. They made him
Right.
butt jokes because he dated Mimi and they got married. Like that was the jokes. Like they didn't make him feel like he wasn't part of the group, because of that.
Yeah, I agree. Looking back at that, I kind of, like I said, I kind of forgot about that show, and why that show's not on in syndication like Seinfeld and Friends, I have no idea because
Oh yeah,
that was just a fantastic show.
and another show that tackled a lot of issues, and I don't agree with the ladies' views on a lot of things. But the Roseanne show,
Mm-hmm.
you know, they had gay couples on there. They had a transgender lady on there one time. I mean, say what you know, she's obviously crazy now, but her show back then did tackle stuff like that.
Right.
And I think those shows, and like you said, Seinfeld, stuff like that, where you wouldn't you got away from the stereotypical flamboyant gay guy or the stereotypical butch lesbian, you know, and they just showed people as people.
Right.
That's what opened the media up, I think, a lot, saying, you know, we can represent these people as people and not the butt of jokes.
Do you ever go back, and I know one of our favorite shows to watch when we were in school was the Wayans Brothers. So, and I still watch it occasionally. If I see an episode on, which it's on BET like all the time, if I ever see the episode where it's Pops' birthday, I always have to stop and watch that. But if you ever notice, going back and watching that, how they always portray the white guy as stupid, and he's the guy. I mean, you obviously had
White Mike.
You had White Mike, but not
Yeah.
even just White Mike. Even like if it was the evil boss of the
Yeah.
towers that Sean worked at, it was always the white guy, and they're always just ditzy. Even the white cop lady from the first season or two, she was
Yeah.
just so. I'm like looking back, I'm like, wow, they really are demeaning white people on this show. But of course, you know, that's a whole different topic. But White Mike's just, you know, fantastic. I couldn't go this whole interview without saying something about White Mike, and I almost said it earlier when you were talking. I don't know if you caught it, but you actually said, "What's up with that?" And that immediately, I went to White Mike.
His boombox, yeah.
Exactly, right? I immediately went to White Mike in my head. So I'm like, I have to bring White Mike up at some point. But it's kind of the same thing with the stereotypes. Go back, next time you're watching, you know, if you see it on in the middle of the night, be like, man, they really make the white guy look pretty stupid. I mean, it's funny. It's a funny show.
Yeah.
It's
Funny.
and I love it. But it's that stereotype of, well, here's the, you know, it's kind of like in the horror movies in the 80s. There's the black guy. They're going to be killed first or second, you know?
Oh yeah, like I think it was I think the only guy to survive a horror show was Busta Rhymes. You know
How just ridiculous was that? I actually watched that. I watched Halloween Resurrection in Columbus when it came out on the big screen, and man, I tell you what, when Busta came out, that place, it was like it stopped and just turned into a hip hop concert. It was so funny. All these people up there just cheering for. I've never been in a more interactive movie theater ever. These people were like just killing it, and that was the worst movie of that whole franchise until you got to the Rob Zombie junk. But the worst movie of the whole franchise, and these people were just eating it up because it was Busta on the screen, and I was cracking up. It was so funny.
Oh, good old Busta. But yeah, I mean, stereotypes. If you
Let me interrupt you for a second. When I just going back to what I just said, and when I said these people, I didn't mean black people. I meant everybody in that theater. I didn't want it to come off as saying, you know what I mean? I didn't want to come off these people. I didn't mean that. I just meant everybody in the theater, myself included. Yeah, everybody's like, you know, killing it for Busta. But I'm sorry. Go ahead with what you were saying.
But when you look at stereotypes, like stereotypes is a hard thing to dance around because you can find humor in your own stereotypes.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're inside your community and you can poke fun at your own stereotypes, I think that's one thing. You know, there's been many a times I will be with my people from my trans group, and we'll talk about, you know, stereotypical things like makeup and, you know, breasts and stuff like that, and we're poking fun at our own stereotypes because we're coming into contact with them.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of a weird thing to step around, and I know I do it more than I should. You know, I'll make stereotypical jokes, and I'll go back and say, "Man, that wasn't nice."
You know, I think there's a difference. I think there's a time and a place for it. I think I love Anthony Jeselnik. I love his comedy. I think he's hilarious because he makes fun of everybody. And you know it's comedy. You know it's a shtick. You know he's not serious. But when you can do it in a comedic way and you're making fun of everybody, but not being comedic, but not being derogatory. I think you have to have that fine line in there of, okay, I'm not gonna say this word or that word and offend this person or that person, but I can really push the bounds because I'm making fun of everybody. I mean, the guy, when I don't know if you watched the Jesselnick Offensive when it was on, funny show. The dude went to a cancer center and was telling cancer jokes, like, to these poor folks who are sitting there, battling cancer, and he's making fun of it, but they're laughing. And to me, it's like, that's what it's about. Like, there's nothing funny about cancer, or you know what I mean? But he's just trying to bring out the humor in things and get these people laughing, and that's where comedy like that, like you said, you have to kind of walk that fine line. Don't be derogatory, but if you can make somebody smile, this takes it back to that point we were talking about earlier. If you can make somebody smile or somebody laugh, you kind of, and I know a lot of comics have insecurities, so that's why they become comedians. It's like, I can put that out there and somebody else is laughing, so I know they're not laughing at me, they're laughing with me or laughing at what I said. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, because comedy is easily relatable. Like you can tell, like when Jesselnick goes to the cancer ward
Mm-hmm.
and tells cancer jokes, he's not poking fun at cancer. He's telling these people, this is the humor that you have to find in your situation, because in that situation you have to find humor. Otherwise, it's going to be way worse.
Right.
And I've done that in the past, and like in 2012, early 2013, I would go to open mic stuff in Athens.
I remember that. I remember you talking about that, or at least reading stuff online, on Facebook or whatever about it. And I'm like, man, I would love to go over there sometime. Just show up and just kind of be in the back and just listen, because you were always hilarious. I mean, you ask anybody about the ham and cheese poem from back in the day. That's a staple of our class. But we always had so much fun, and there was always so many laughs. So I would have loved to have been able to see you up there kind of on stage doing that. But knowing now what I know, to see that, it's like, wow, he's making everybody laugh, but he's hurting. You know what I mean? So knowing now what I would know, it'd be like, I'm happy he's up there doing good, but it's also causing a lot of pain inside, if that makes sense.
Well, like when I did those, I did like a whole transgender routine,
Okay.
and talked about, the troubles I have, transitioning and stuff like that. And I could do that with that audience because there was a lot of LGBT people in the audience,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of trans people in the audience, and they understood, the plight that I was going through, and they could laugh along, like, oh yeah, I remember the first time, I went bra shopping, or I remember the first time, I ordered clothes online and didn't understand the size differences, and I got extra small underwear,
Sure, kind of able to play to your audience a little more over there, as compared to like coming to someplace here in Jackson and doing the same routine, and it probably not going over quite as well.
Yeah, but that was my way of dealing with all the difficulty that I was having. Because these were difficult things I was going through. Because I didn't have anybody time to kind of help me through, all this stuff I needed to do. It was just me. I couldn't ask my mom to go bra shopping with me. Jesus, that'd be horrible. I can't ask Mark. So my options were limited. When I first got down here.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, humor is a great way to deal with stuff like that.
Right. I think it just takes the edge off. And I know in school, whenever I would have to do a presentation up in front of the class or anything like that, I would always try to get a little humor first, and you get a little bit of a laugh, and then you do kind of calm down a little bit. It's like, okay, I can do this. I know they're listening to me. They're laughing at me. They're laughing with me. They're not going to be laughing at me. They're not going to be judging me. Now I can go on with my speech or whatever it was I had to do. So I definitely understand what you're saying. On a much smaller scale, obviously. But I appreciate you coming on and talking with me about this, and again, just kind of educating me a little bit, and anybody who listens to this, maybe educating them a little bit. It's like I said earlier, kindness has no gender. Just be kind to people. There was told a story here recently where my folks and I had went to Virginia for a sports show. I went down and met a couple athletes, and we were on our way back, and we stopped at this little restaurant. It was like a Perkins or a Denny's or something to grab a quick bite, and there was a dude sitting across from us, and there was a little guy at the front counter, checking people in. He was probably, if he was 20, he might have been 20. He couldn't have been any older than that. But the guy sits down, orders his food. Obviously, his soup's cold. The way he's kind of mushing it around, he hollers for the guy to come over. It's not even the waiter; it's the guy working the front counter. The kid comes over, and the gentleman, who's probably in his late 60s, maybe early 70s, kind of looks like maybe a former truck driver, just kind of a big guy, got the Bluetooth in, kind of like, okay, this is. It just kind of reminded me of a trucker. Tells the kid to hold his hand out. Kid holds his hand out. The guy takes a spoonful of soup, dumps it in this kid's hand. And I'm like, this kid,
Wow.
what are you doing? So immediately, stuff like that really goes through me. I'm like, all right, talking to my parents. I'm like, did you guys see what just happened? The guy just walks off. The kid, he just walks off, walks to the back. A couple minutes later, the kid didn't say anything. Whereas if it would have been me, the guy would have been wearing it, and he would have been out. Like, I would have got the manager. Unacceptable. But a couple minutes later, there's a girl comes through, the waiter, the waitress, gives him another thing of soup and takes care of the whole deal. And I think it was too hot for him that time because he pushed it away and he's all frustrated. But I guess the point of it is, like, this dude was just being a jerk for no reason. Like, just be nice, man. Be nice to people. Again, you might not agree. This guy might have had a terrible day. He might have might have driven, if he was a trucker, might have driven 1,200 miles and was just agitated and hungry and whatever. But you can still treat people kindly. It wasn't this kid's fault. You know what I mean? Like, now this kid's going to think about that probably I'm not saying this is going to scar this kid or anything like that. It wasn't a huge ordeal, but be nice, Now this might give this kid a preconceived, notion of, because this was a man of color and the kid wasn't. So now is this kid going to look at somebody of this particular gentleman's color and say, well, here's what happened, so-and-so. So now I'm going to treat everybody that looks like him this way. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, it's you can't let one incident with a person, in your mind to think everybody's like that.
Right.
I'm sure there are some horrible LGBT people out there. I'm sure there's some horrible straight people out there. I'm sure there's horrible African people. There's obviously horrible white people. I mean, just everybody's horrible. No group does not have a horrible person.
Absolutely.
But I'm 100% sure the good people outweigh the horrible.
Exactly. I agree with that, and I hear that so many times where, it's just everybody's horrible and everybody's this and everything's going to crap. It's like, well, that's what the news focuses on, because that's the stories that sell. You don't hear about the little kid who's opening up the lemonade stand trying to raise money for his sister who's battling cancer. Like, there's plenty of stories like that going on, but they're not really newsworthy, It's like, oh, man, what tragedy can we talk about tonight? That draws viewers in. Viewers are going to watch. So everything seems bad. But I'm with you, man. The good outweigh the bad, and I wish they would focus more on, especially now, we have so much crap going on in politics where everybody's hating everybody anyway. Let's bring out some good news stories,
Yeah, I mean, there's, like you said, there's tons of good news stories. No one wants to hear it. Everybody wants to hear the drama. Everybody wants to, and then they'll complain, oh, the world's all bad. Well, that's because that's all you want to watch.
Exactly.
If you scroll down a couple pages and see the story about the lemonade stand, or see the story about, the guy running cross country to raise money for veterans,
Mm-hmm.
Those are stories you need to click on, because those will make yourself feel better, and then you'll go out and you'll treat people better. and then maybe people will stop hating each other, and maybe finally we can all get along. It's never going to happen, but for the majority, we can all get along.
Right. There's times where I'll scroll through, you'll get the videos that pop up on Facebook, and you'll scroll through, you're trying to watch a funny video, and then one of these heart tuggers will come on there, and you're like, oh man, I don't want to watch this. And next thing you know, 14 minutes later, you're sitting there kind of wiping some tears out of your eyes, being like, wow, that was pretty good. Like those good uplifting stories of like, man, there's good people out there. There's some really, really people who just care and would do anything for you. Let's try to focus on that.
Yeah, I mean, and you don't have to look far. I mean, there's good people in every neighborhood. There's a nice old lady on every corner of every block in the world that will help you do anything, and people just overlook them because they're different, or because something about them ain't that what they think ain't right.
Right.
And it sucks because people have them preconceived notions. Gay people are bad, trans people are bad, black people are bad, white people are bad. Whatever they're thinking is bad, and they don't actually learn enough about these people to think, oh, they're not all bad. John, the gay guy, he was bad because he did this. But Mitch, the gay guy, he didn't do that. So why do I think he's bad?
Right.
You can't lump people based on one thing.
Right. I agree. Good way to say that. Well, anything just to kind of wrap things up? I know we've been talking for about an hour and a half now. As far as like wrapping anything up, if you had, if there's somebody listening that is maybe going through this, but they're afraid to come out and say, hey, this is me. Like you said, you waited so long, and you feel like a lot of your life you lived, kind of, for better word, miserable, where you couldn't be who you were. So if there's somebody listening or who tunes into it and kind of is that same way, what would you say to them? So just what would be your best advice?
My best advice is, do it when you're ready. You're going to be the one that tells you when you're ready.
Mm-hmm.
If you need somebody, if you're listening to this, contact Brent. He'll contact me. I'll contact you. No matter what your plight is, whether you're coming out as gay, whether you're coming out as trans, whether you're coming out as anything. If you have a struggle with anything, it don't even have to be like, we obviously talked this episode about, transgender and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But really anything, any kind of mental illness, it's coming out of the closet isn't just like a gay LGBT thing.
Right.
It's coming out of the closet saying, this is what's going on in my life. This is what I need help with, So for any issue like that, and I'm sure, I don't want to put words in your mouth. I'm sure if someone came to you and said this, you would help them out.
Oh, 100%.
So, so contact Brent, or if, you want to contact me, tell Brent, he'll give you my info. They can contact me, and I'll help them or lead them to where they can get help, because once you go through the struggle, once you go through all the hardship, you never want to see anybody else go through that.
Right.
And I will always help anybody to get the help they need so they can live an authentic life and they can be the person that they need to be. Because if you're not true to yourself, you are going to have a horrible time in life. You're not going to be happy. You're not going to have the opportunities that you could have, because you're always going to be in this little bubble, and that's not a life anybody wants to live.
Right. Life's pretty short unless you're miserable.
Yeah.
I think if you're miserable, it's going to just drag on, and you're going to hate everything. But man, be happy, because it's pretty quick. Again, we talked about all that stuff as kids, and now, man, that's been 25 years ago. It goes so quick. And one of the things I remember, and I don't know if you remember this or not, but I got a call that one night from you. I think it was a call or a text. I can't remember exactly. And it's when you were going through some issues. And this isn't to pat myself on the back. I'm not looking for that. just to kind of bring light to the time that you reached out to me. Um, and you were like, I'm going to go walk down to the highway. I'm walking out in traffic. Do you remember this specific conversation we had?
Yeah, we played basketball that night.
Exactly. For like 2 hours, you were telling me that. And I'm like, dude, I'm like, what do you do? And I'll come get you. Where are you at? And I could never get a straight answer from you. You're like, oh, I'm almost to the highway. I'm like, I'm freaking out. I'm talking to mom. I'm like, I'm throwing on my shoes. I'm gonna go look for him. I don't know what's going on. And as soon as I walked out the door, our motion light came on, and you were out back with the basketball. And then we just sat out there and shot for 2.5 hours, just shooting the crap, talking about whatever, just to get your mind off of things. And I think in that time, maybe that's all you needed. I just need somebody to listen, somebody to talk to. And I remember driving you home, and you were, everything was good. But that always sticks out in my head. Not everything was good. I'm sure it was, still tough for you. But I think maybe that night, that's all you needed, was somebody to know somebody was there in case you needed them.
Yeah, and that's all it is.
That you reached out to me, I appreciate that. I really do. And you can do that to this day. If something were to ever go down and you can't think of anybody, again, I'm gone a lot. I can't. Sometimes I can't be right there, but I will get with you as soon as I can and do anything I can to help you, because I've always thought a lot of you. Again, 30 plus year friendship, and it's hopefully continues another 40, 50 years. I just hope that we can get it back to a point where we see each other more often, and that kind of thing. But I'm always here if you need to reach out. I don't care what it's about. Always reach out, unless it's a computer issue, because I'll be calling you. Hey, yeah, you just called about a computer issue. I need to ask you a question.
Yeah. I remember at night, and I remember I was going through, stuff, like I said, like the divorce just happened, and all that, and I was looking for someone to tell me, that I was like, I wasn't a burden. You know what I'm saying? Like I went to your house, we played basketball. That's all we did all night. And then we sat on your little porch on that shed you have out there.
Mm-hmm.
And then we talked, and I was like, things ain't really that bad, I guess, because, I do have friends, But yeah, I remember that night, pretty much just like it was the other night. I remember a lot. And yeah, it was good to have somebody that night, that's for sure.
That's one of those things that has always struck with me when I think about, since you've come out, and looking back, there were times where I would see just different posts about things. Here's another post. Shane's posting, I'm going to do this to myself. I'm going to do that. And not to be disrespectful, I hope you don't take this wrong, but it was almost like, oh, is this a cry wolf situation? Are they looking, you know what I mean? But then when that happened and you came here and we talked, and especially now after everything's out, it's like you were in need of help. And who was I to have a little bit of judgment then? I would always be there for you, but I was just wondering, like, oh, what's going on? Is this legit? Because we never talked about it. It was just things I would see on Facebook, and I'm like, oh man, is this an intention thing? And I'm not meaning that disrespectful to you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's a lot of people who do that, and they're just looking for attention. But then after talking to you that night, and as time has went on, it's like, no, it's not a cry wolf thing. It's I need help, and I'm trying to get help any way I know how, and that's by coming out, by not necessarily coming out. You know what I mean?
Yeah. A lot of times, cry for helps are like a buckshot situation. You shoot out this like scatter gun, and you're hoping, one of the 10 bullets hits somebody that'll get their attention and say, hey, maybe we should look in on AJ and see what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And Facebook and social media is kind of like a double-edged sword, because I could post something on Facebook and 1,000 people see it in a minute.
Right. Right.
So I'm like, all right, I got this huge audience. But at the same time, then you don't really want 1,000 people to know what's going on.
Right.
So I mean, it's a balancing act. Social media has really changed a lot of things, whether for the good or bad, we'll find out. But
Yeah, I think there's a lot of good to it, but like you said too, I think there's a lot of keyboard warriors out there who kind of can sit back and say different things and kind of hide behind, oh, this person's never going to see me, or I'm never going to have to confront this person because I'm 5,000 miles away, or you know what I mean. So I think there's good and bad in it. But yeah, like I said, don't feel like you're ever a burden to me, because you never were. And like I said earlier, when I was looking back and I was like, oh, Shane was this and that. Obviously, that's when you were still going by Shane. That's why I, said Shane said this. So reach out to me at any time. If it's just to talk, if it's to not even talk about anything, if you just are feeling bad, hey, I just want to get my mind off of it, man. We'll talk about whatever. I don't care. We'll talk about old stories. We'll talk about, the Wayans Brothers episodes. We'll talk about all that stuff we used to, come home and when we would come home from junior high and pop in the old Stripes.
Yeah. We had to wait till Days of Our Lives finished recording that.
I know, right? Mom's recording Days of Our Lives. We can't pop Stripes in yet because, man, that shower scene, there's some boobies in there, man.
Yeah.
We got remember doing that, and remember coming home, and it was, for the longest time, me and you would just make up these 1-800 numbers and call them.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
1-800 Mom's Tea.
Yeah.
Is the one I remember.
I remember 1-800.
Mom always made tea.
I remember 1-800 Pinball. Do you remember that one?
Yeah.
We called that, and then we would always get in touch with somebody, and we were just, I don't know why that was so funny at the time, but we didn't have internet, we didn't have computers, we didn't have whatever.
Yeah.
So we would either come home and watch the old Stripes VHS, or make those phone calls. Or I think as we got a little older, remember the video station that came out, and they would play, it was just nonstop videos. You could actually call in and request.
It was the box. Yeah.
The box, that's right. I was going to say Red Box. I was like, but that's not right. It was, the box, because I remember calling in there, and I think it was me and you requesting Weird Al. Do you remember that?
Amish Paradise. Yes, and we would request it over and over again, and you would see, like, it was like by number, and they'd scroll at the bottom, and then like the number, whatever it was, 481 or whatever, would scroll.
Right.
Yeah.
How funny is that, man? How funny is that?
We had to wait to watch music videos. How old are we?
That was a fun time, though. Getting home and TRL being on when that was just hot, and I didn't watch that all the time, but sometimes I'd come home and watch the new video for the week, or, who's going to be performing live this week. That stuff is kind of, those days are gone. Now you can just pull it up on the phone and missing something, you can, I can just watch the replay here on my phone. Back then it was like, oh man, I got to wait, a week, or I got to wait maybe until the rerun comes on 7 or 8 months from now. If it was a TV show you liked, you had to wait till the summer. They started rerunning everything.
I mean, MTV had music videos.
They did.
I'll tell kids that are bagging groceries at the store, I'm like, there was a time when MTV had no TV shows, and it was all music videos. And they're like, that's not possible. They're like, because you have to wake up at like 6 in the morning to watch music videos for like 2 hours.
And you only get, that's what I was going to say, you get it for an hour or two.
Then it's all like reality TV. I'm like, no, there was a time in the old days,
And daggone Puck and Pedro changed all that for everybody. They started with the Real World, and guilty. Even to this day, that's one of my guilty pleasures. If a challenge comes on with the Road Rules and Real World cast, which not a whole lot of the Road Rules cast anymore, because that, these guys are getting older, but I still watch that. I don't watch just the seasons or whatever that are on, but I like the challenges. Those are pretty fun. Seeing some of the guys that we grew up with, I'm thinking, man, this person was 21 whenever I was 18, and I'm almost 40 now. These guys are old,
Oh yeah, I think the only challenge now is keeping Puck out of rehab, but that's another story.
Yeah, he kind of took I don't even know if he took a turn. He just went.
There was no turn. He was going down that path when he became popular.
No kidding. All right, well, let's finish up here. I did this with my first podcast with Andy Parsons, just to kind of throw a couple just random things out to you. Answer them with whatever comes to mind. Just a question here, question there. If you have anything you want to ask me at the end, throw one out to me. But I think it's just something fun to do to kind of end the podcast a little bit, especially this one. We were a little bit more, a little bit more serious, and rightfully so, because again, I wanted to kind of learn and get some stuff out there from your perspective, and kind of let people understand that, hey, it's okay to be yourself,
Oh yeah.
But okay, so first thing, if you could go back to any day in high school, any day, pick a day. If you could go back there right now, what day would that be, and what would you change about it? Is there a day that stands out in your head like, that day sucked, or man, that day was so much fun, I'd like to do that again? What day would you go back to?
As soon as you said what day back in high school, I thought of, do you remember the day when Mandy Darrow slapped Don Ballinger?
Oh, man. Wow, I'd kind of forgotten about that, to be honest with you. But yes, I didn't see it, but I remember.
I got to see it, but I wish I had a better seat. I wish I was closer, because that was one of the funniest things I ever saw. Just watching her unload on him. And I still think about this day, because it was hilarious.
That's funny.
And it was over stupid high school stuff.
Right.
It doesn't matter these days. But just watching, here's little Mandy Darrow, 80 pounds soaking wet, just hauling off and beating this boy, and he can't do nothing about it. He just has to sit there and take it.
And Don was a big boy. Don was
he was a bigger boy.
Not fat guy or anything, he was just a big guy.
Yeah, and that was hilarious. And I would go back, and I would go back early enough so I could be in position to kind of do the Chris Tucker from Friday, where I could just hold him. That's where I would go back to in a heartbeat.
That sounds like a pretty good day to go back, like you said, especially if you had a little bit of a better seat.
Yeah.
To see that all unfold. That's pretty funny. Okay, favorite sports moment ever.
Favorite sports moment ever.
I know you talked earlier about I wasn't good at sports, and dude, you were pretty good. You played some ball for the Cubbies. We had you on our team, and we always played basketball out here. You were a good athlete. And I know we always talk about Jimmy Jackson and Lawrence Moten and Frank Thomas and the Sox. But do you have a sports moment that kind of, whether it be that you played or that you saw, high school sport or high school, college, pro, any sport, any level?
I didn't get to see it live, but I got to see a lot of clips from it, and I got to see some of it on SportsCenter. And I think again, it's humorous to me because I didn't have to deal with the embarrassment of it, but it was when Wellston played LeBron's high school team.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that was what, 2002 or was it 2002, I think?
2002, I think it was. And because if there was ever a Globetrotter versus Generals moment,
that was it.
This was it. This was like putting a sumo wrestler on one side of the seesaw and Mandy Darrow on the other side. And telling people this is perfectly balanced.
I heard that was a bit of a, if I remember correctly, I never saw anything of it. I never went to that game. I know it was up north somewhere. Didn't that game get called in the second half because of, like, power outage or something happened?
Yeah, very suspicious power outage.
Yeah, right. I mean, somebody in a Wellston shirt was out back messing with the lines.
Yeah, I think something happened there, but... And I tell a joke, it's kind of a bad taste joke, but every time I talk about this game, I tell people, I'm like, that's the moment in life I became pro-choice. Was after, because someone should have ended that game before it even started. Because just watching the tip-off, you knew this was bad.
You realized the discrepancy in talent. You know what I mean? Like, we got to play I think it was my freshman year. I played against Mike Miller, and Mike Miller had a really good NBA career. He was in the NBA for 12 or 15 years, really solid. But same thing, like this guy's on another level. I think he scored 40 against us. They beat us. But seeing, Brody Merrill, who was a really good player, but Brody, he didn't really have size. I think he was maybe 5'9" or 5'10". Seeing, Brody trying to guard him, and Mike being 6'7" I think. I don't know if he was that tall in high school, maybe 6'5". But just seeing the discrepancy in talent, it's like, wow, this is that next level talent. Not taking anything away from Brody, because he was a very good high school player, and I think he went on to play at Rio. But it's like, man, this is some daggone talent. This guy's got the size, he's got this, he's got the strength, he's just got that build, you know what I mean, and that finesse and that touch to be able to play in that next level.
Yeah, but just that game, I mean, that it should be a moment in sports history that people talk about. It's like, okay, how did this happen? Who thought it was a good idea to let this happen?
Right.
Who thought it was a good idea to record it? I mean,
pretty cool story for the kids that played him. Hey, I got to guard LeBron.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool.
No, they didn't get to guard LeBron. They got to stand there.
Stand next to him, yes.
While LeBron flew by.
I got to see the bottom of his shoes.
Yeah. And it's like, but yeah.
Go ahead.
I remember, like, just hearing about that and seeing the clips, and I was like, this is amazing. One, how does a team from Wellston that, couldn't get ranked in NBA Live, let alone actual basketball sports, go against LeBron's team? And it was funny. It was funny to watch.
We played a team. I can't remember the team name in high school, but I think we played them at Rio Grande. So it was a team from close. It was a team in Ohio, I think. But I remember, same thing. These guys were just huge. And I remember a guy going up. He's coming down the lane, and I was kind of playing off on the wing, I think. And just remember seeing the dude jump from just inside the free throw line. It's like, man, there's still some good tread on the bottom of those shoes. You know what I mean? Like, he just going up and just, these guys were skying. It's like, okay, we're a tad bit overmatched,
Yeah.
But again, good story. Last thing, and I asked Parsons the same thing. As far one thing that sticks out in your head as far as a memory of us growing up. There's so many that I have that we could make a whole hour and a half podcast on that. But give me one of the things you think about when you think about me and you as kids, or me, you, and Dustin, or me, you, and Dustin and Brandon, a group of us, whatever. What's your biggest memory that included both of us together as kids?
The one memory I always come back to, and the first text you sent me on Skype today was chili cheese burrito.
Right.
And it was when we went to Chillicothe with your mom and dad, and we had chili cheese burritos. And as I left the car, I farted.
That car was never the same.
Yeah, and I a lot of our memories have to do with farts. We had the Echo Mic fart.
Yeah, what was that about? Good Lord.
I spent the night and we kept farting in the Echo Mic, and then we would sniff it, and
In our defense, we were only 25.
Yeah.
I think we were probably 10, maybe 11.
Yeah, something like that. I mean, I would still do it now if I found an Echo Mic.
Yeah, I'm not gonna act like I'm too good to do that now.
Yeah, you can't come across an Echo Mic and not fart in it at any age.
It's funny because I think me and my cousin Josh have that same memory.
Josh. I remember Josh. Yeah.
So funny.
That damn Echo Mic. It's either that or I don't know what it is with you and car doors.
Oh man, yeah.
But you slammed my fingers in car doors. Then we was out at Lake Hope one time. Pretty sure it was Lake Hope. It was me, you, your dad, and one of your younger cousins or something. And you slammed his fingers in the truck door.
Well, I mean, to be fair, I never really liked him anyway.
Yeah, that's okay.
I don't remember who that was, but I do remember. I remember a couple times that it happened.
He was younger than, like, real younger than us.
It probably would have had to been John, because John's about, John's probably 6 or 7 years younger than me. So that's really the only younger male cousin that would have been around at that time.
And here's a kind of a side story about that. The day you was nice enough to shut my fingers in the truck door.
That was up at my Uncle Gary's, wasn't it? We were having a picnic up there.
It was at a birthday party.
Yeah.
It was a birthday party for Emily.
Emily, yeah.
Remember Emily?
Yes.
Okay. Well, when I came down here to work, Emily was working there at Kroger.
That's right, yeah.
Emily is also trans.
Right.
So it's kind of like, and we talked about this. I said, I was at your house one time at your birthday party. So it kind of like came full circle a little bit.
How crazy is that? I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
What the heck? What the heck was in that cake?
Yeah. What? Well, I mean, it was close to Benton County. Could have been water. We don't know.
Oh man, yeah, I'd forgotten that was for. I'm sure she doesn't remember that because she was super, super young.
No, no. I told her about that because I was telling her like where it was at, and she's like, "Oh yeah, that." I was like, "Was that for someone's birthday party?" And then like she came back a couple of days later. It's like, "Yeah, that was my birthday party."
I have a picture somewhere of you I think you were sitting on a picnic table or on the tailgate with a plate of cake, and you were eating the cake. We have that somewhere. I specifically remember that picture, seeing it within the last few years. So if I find that, I'll have to try to send you a copy of it. I'll text it to you.
Oh, side note, did you ever find out what you were eating in that picture?
Man, I don't know. I don't know what that was.
It does look like a sack of flour.
It does. Why would I have flour? Dude,
why would we look how we're looking? That's what was the story behind that?
Man, I don't even remember. We went out that day to play some track down out there. Isn't that just the weirdest group? Like, I was friends with all those guys.
That's a random group. Like, I'm looking at the picture.
Right?
And, like, I'm looking at it right now, and I'm like, okay, I remember, Jake Brown was always at the house playing basketball with us.
Right, because he lived, 3 houses up.
Yeah. And then, who is behind me?
Philip Thompson is back there in that middle.
In the middle.
And then my cousin Josh is right behind you. That's Josh with the glasses on. Yep.
Oh, wow.
Isn't that crazy?
So Philip Thompson, who I rarely hung out with.
Right.
Good guy. I just never hung out with him. Josh, only when he was, visiting.
Mm-hmm.
Chris Wall, where does that come from?
I don't know, man. I always liked Chris.
Oh yeah, I always liked Chris and his brother and all that.
He always called me. He knew I was a big wrestling fan back in the day, so every day I would see him in the hallway. He just called me Superfly. He's up, Superfly. He's like Superfly Snuka. He's like, that was my name my entire senior year. What's up, Superfly? I'm like, okay. But yeah, I don't remember how he made the cut that day for that group. Okay, well, let's clarify what we're talking about. I recently posted a couple pictures on Facebook, a couple old photos, and one of the photos was of me and you and a couple other buddies out at Lake Elma playing track down, and I have something that I'm holding in between my legs, and I have no idea what it is. And Troy Mead actually brought this up first, and he asked, "Is why do you have a bag of flour between your legs?" And for the life of me, I don't know what it is. I've kind of tried to look and zoom in on my phone, and I can't tell.
I think it's a water jug.
Yeah, I bet it's got to be a water jug, right?
I'm like zooming in on my iPhone and like trying to answer it. Like I think it's a water jug.
Yeah.
But is that the brown truck? Is that the Ranger?
That's the old Ford Ranger. That is, in fact. Yep, I wrecked that guy. I didn't destroy it though. I just wrecked it twice, I guess. Me and Bub were coming back from Rio one day, and we saw Fott. You're familiar with Rio, so come down over the hill. The gas station is on the left, and then McDonald's is right there.
Yeah.
And so we're coming down that hill, and we see Fott at the gas station. So we're looking over, we're waving, "Hey, Fott, what's up?" I look back, man, and I had zero time. Somebody was turning into McDonald's. I hit the person, she went up and hit the person in front of them, and it was just a whole mess, man. They got my car jumped. I drove it all the way home, but then it died in the driveway. But the worst part was the girl that I hit was in my, I believe, psychology class, and you talk about throwing daggers with her eyes. When I walked into class that next morning, if she had lasers, dude, she would have burned a hole right through me. Because it was like, I remember the first thing she said, "I just got this car fixed," and me, sometimes I'm a little sarcastic with comebacks. I don't think I said it out loud, but my first thought was, well, looks like you're gonna have to get it fixed again. Like, man, I destroyed that, and then she went up and hit the car in front of her. Totally my fault. And then another time I was coming back from, I think OU. I think I still had the Ranger when I was going to OU, and coming out Malga Road, not the best road anyway.
Yeah.
But coming across that little bridge, and I'm thinking, there ain't nobody on this road. I'm gonna fishtail this truck, man. I'm gonna gas it. I'm gonna fishtail up through here. Well, I'm terrible at that to start with. So I don't know what made me think this is a good place to do it. So I hit that gas. I start spinning the wheel, and I did a 180, slammed into the bank, and came to a complete stop. Immediately got out of the car, looked at the house in front of me, because there was only one house visible, just to make sure. I'm like, if somebody's standing there, I look so stupid right now. That's all I was concerned about. I wasn't concerned about the truck. I got out and I'm looking at that house. I'm like, okay, nobody's looking. I jumped back in the car, started. Luckily it started, took off and headed home. I'm like, yeah, Dad, I kind of had a little wreck. Like, I had to let him know what happened. What an idiot. Every time we passed it a couple days ago. I'm like, yep, here's where I tried to fishtail like an idiot. So stupid. I'm not very with cars. I wrecked the white car on ice. I hit, just missed a couple mailboxes going to Rio. Slid off the side of the road and hit 2 poles. Knocked them over. 2 signs. Dad had to come from work and kind of help me out and trade me vehicles. Then the brown truck I wrecked twice, and then I totaled my black truck coming. I just came back the day before from the Sugar Bowl when Michigan played Virginia Tech, and I thought it would be a good idea for some reason to work the second half of the day after a 16-hour drive. And like an idiot, I had just looked at my phone. I threw it down beside me, was coming around the corner, and my front passenger side wheel went slightly off of the curb, and man, I couldn't pull it back.
Oh.
I tried. I was like, if I pull this too hard, I'm gonna roll this thing. So luckily missed a mailbox and then just slammed a telephone pole. Glass shattered, glass in my eyeball, like it was nuts. So I haven't been great with vehicles. Luckily, I bought this vehicle that I have now, and I've had a few things happen to it, but nothing super drastic that I've personally inflicted.
Your next one might be a tank or something.
I need a big Hummer with so ridiculous. But there was something else I was going to ask you, and I can't remember what it was. Well, anyway, anything you have for me? Anything you want to ask me? Any questions? Anything that you're like just burning to know, just dying to know?
Not really. To be honest, I think I know a lot about you. So.
Yeah, you do. I mean, there's a pretty open book. We've talked about all this stuff before.
Oh yeah.
I always tell Brandon the story. And you'll remember this one right off. We're riding bikes back in before the new school was built.
The chapstick.
Oh man.
Yeah.
And it was.
I was thinking about that. I was putting chapstick on, during this, and I was thinking about that story. But I almost died choking on my chapstick.
Right. So we're riding back in behind the ball fields. There's the school's not back there yet. We have all that room, and I think I was in front. I think I was in front of you, and you're coming behind. And next thing you know, I hear you kind of start to wreck, and I just hear, bah! I was like, what is that? I look back, you're laying on the ground, your front wheel had fallen off.
Yep.
Like it fell off of the bike. I don't know how that happened. And your chapstick's laying 10 feet away, and the that I heard was you coughing that chapstick back out.
Well, I remember I was wearing basketball shorts and had no pockets in them.
Right. So you had the chapstick in your mouth.
So I had the chapstick in my mouth, and I'm riding, and I pull up on my front wheel, and the bolt comes off. So the wheel stays on the ground, the forks come up, and with gravity, the forks come back down, stick right into the ground. I flip over the handlebars and almost die choking on my chapstick. So that's how that happened.
Oh man, I was like, how does it? It's almost like that Ron White skit. Like
Yeah.
it just the wheel fell the f off. You know what I mean? Like how does that happen? That's that one. And when you were out here and my Uncle Jim was jumping on the trampoline, do you remember that day? You
Oh,
just
yeah.
Oh my gosh, he was so funny jumping on that trampoline and singing Christmas songs.
Oh, he was something.
Yeah, have it on. We have it on video. My cousin Jack was staying with my grandma at the time, and he walked out, and he's looking like, "What is this idiot doing?" And then Dad had the video camera over, and you came, or actually I was videotaping, and you came riding your bike up, and you saw Jim jumping on the trampoline, and you're like, "What?" So I have all this on tape. Him just singing these at the time, what we thought were, "Oh my God, this is so vulgar." You know what I mean? Just so funny. I'll have to find that clip one of these days. I'll have to send you that clip as well. Man, we have so many videos together. You have to stop by when I'm back in town. Hopefully, well, not hopefully, because I really like it when I go, obviously to Hawaii and work. It's pretty hard not to like, but as of right now, I'm only scheduled for 6 months. So if that's the case, I'll be back in mid-January. But they may extend it to a year, so it could be till next July. But regardless, at some point next year when I'm home, you got to stop. You got to come over. First of all, Mom and Dad love to see you, but just to give yourself where you come over and spend the whole day, and we'll just go through old tapes, old pictures. There's so much funny stuff we have on there. Do you remember playing football in the rain in the backyard?
It was like me, you, I think Jake Brown.
Yep.
And Jamie, it was all flooded.
Jamie Esman was your teammate, and Jake was my teammate.
Of course, that's my teammate.
Right? You guys were kind of like DeVito and Schwarzenegger, man. You were kind of like twins, you know what I mean?
Like DeVito and DeFito, because didn't win anything.
Oh, man, but we have video of that, giving high fives and falling backwards into the creek. Like, we just have so much of that stuff on tape that we need to go through one day. Yeah, so to wrap things up, I really appreciate you. First of all, it's just good to talk to you, because I don't think we've actually spoken. We haven't spoken outside of Kroger in 4 or 5 years, and I think it's been that long since I spoke to you in Kroger, because I always look for you when I'm in there, but not being around here often, I'm hardly ever in, but I'm always looking. I'm like, which aisle am I going to? But you're never up there working the register when I come. But I appreciate you talking a little bit, and we'll definitely do this again. We'll get a different topic, and we'll just shoot the breeze like we are right now and talk about it, whatever,
I'm always down to talk about whatever. I mean, it's fun to just get together and talk about anything. Even if it's just not a random topic, just talk the talk.
It's funny how you have those people that they were part of your life for so long, and then they're kind of all of a sudden not anymore. But then when you see them, you just automatically go right back to the way it was.
Oh, you know what I mean? You just pick up where you left off like it's nothing, yeah.
I can do that with you. I can do that with Jake Eberts. And, man, I love Eberts to death. And life just took different paths for us.
Yeah.
And we just kind of lost touch. I hate it. That now the only time I really see him is at funerals, because we're at that age where grandparents are passing away, and aunts and uncles, and sometimes that's the only place I really run into these guys. But same thing, though. I know if I picked right back up with Everts, we could just shoot the breeze, and it would kind of go back to the way it was. Man, I appreciate that. I appreciate having that bond with you. And
same here, man. Same here.
Again, know that anything you need, and I think you've always known that, but anything you need, get in touch with me. Even if I can't get with you right away, especially when I go over there, it's going to be a 6-hour time difference for a bit, and then it'll turn to a 5-hour time difference. But shoot me a text, and then, hey, as soon as I wake up in the morning, or as soon as I get home from work, I'll give you a call. I'll get with you, whatever you need. I'm always a text or a phone call away.
Got you. Right on, man. Same here, man. You need anything, you just holler.
All right. Well, it's good speaking with you. I'll do some editing to this bad boy, and we'll have it out here in the next couple days. And like I said, we'll do it again soon, okay?
All right.
All right. Good talking to you.
Hey, you too, man.
So there you go, everybody. That was my interview with AJ Browning. And I'm glad we got to talk a little bit, and a few things were cleared up for me, and I hope some questions were answered, for you guys if you had any, or I hope you just enjoyed the episode here in a kind of a different perspective, a different side of things that you might not be familiar with or you might not be comfortable with. But I think in the end, we just kind of see that we're all living in this world together, and we need to be nice to each other. Everybody deals with things differently. Everybody goes through different changes in their lives, things that we don't know about. We see somebody every day, and we think they're okay, and they might not be. So open a dialogue. If you see one of your friends or one of your coworkers, somebody who you maybe think is having a bad day, treat them a little better that day. Ask them how their day is going. Ask them if there's anything they need to talk about. Tell them that you're there for them. Let's just be nice to people. Again, I said it a couple times earlier, and it may sound cheesy, it may sound cliche, but kindness has no gender. Everybody, let's just be nice to each other, and I thank you for listening to my second episode. I know this was a little longer episode, but I didn't feel that I could cut this one short. I thought about cutting it maybe into two parts, but I didn't want to do that either because I didn't think there was a specific stopping point where we could cut it down. But future episodes will most likely be a little bit shorter, but again, I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll be back sooner than later with the third episode of the Hey Buddy podcast.